Oggi io chiederò alla squadra un approccio da qui alla fine del campionato completamente diverso, perché è ora che la squadra cominci a dare qualche cosa a questa società, visto che gli ha dato molto.
Altrimenti, Presidente?
Assumerò dei provvedimenti completamente diversi e inaspettati e molto duri.
Nei confronti dell'allenatore o di qualche giocatore?
Nei confronti di tutto lo staff.
To paraphrase, today I demanded the team to take a completely different approach from the way they've been playing this season. It is time this season that the players give back to the società, given that the organization has done so for them. Otherwise, there will be unexpected decisions. For me, the only unexpected decision is that this message wasn't given earlier. It's down to the business end of the season, and of course Lazio is barely scraping the surface. It's been a little while since I've asked you to lend me your ears, but sometimes if you have nothing good to say, you don't say it. Here to break down the last few weeks for us is Lazio-born fan Emanuele De Donno. Emanuele, welcome back to the North Curve.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing all right. Could be better as usual. I have to ask you, from President Lotito's comments as we've seen here, where was this message in January, and what does this mean for us as fans and for the club?
I'm not really sure why where it was in January and why it didn't come out in January. I think that's when the team was just not doing as great as the beginning of the season, but everybody thought that they would probably come back and pick up after, a few games of problems. The problem is that that really hasn't happened. Now he probably just feels like, everybody's on him, and he had to come out and say this. But to tell you the truth, I tried giving him the benefit of the doubt at the beginning, and when everybody was criticizing him, but I got to say, I'm not liking Lotito at all. What he does, how he's handling the situation, the decisions he's made and continues to make. I don't know. I see him now as being a problem because I have a company. People that have companies know that there's moments where you have problems, you have to solve the problems. I don't think he's been doing that at all, and not just this year. He's bringing forward this policy of cutting back on costs and bringing people that care about the jersey and all this. And I think he got lucky for a long time, and he's holding on to Rossi because of a few reasons, some of which I think are he doesn't ask for a lot of money, and he doesn't ask for much in general, and he's more of like, sitting back and listening to what Lotito says without really saying anything back. Like I've heard people saying Simeone might come, but Lotito will never bring Simeone. The way I see it, maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I am, but the way I see it, he would never bring somebody like Simeone because Simeone wouldn't put up with half the shit that Lotito does. While Rossi is okay with a lot of the stuff, you know what I mean? But I think Lotito needs to seriously maybe talk with his people, or someone really needs to advise them on some moves to make. It's too much right now. It's really getting out of hand. I think there's just something not right within the players. He hasn't been doing his part. I think Lotito, he's been promising things for the last few years. Yes, we understand that when he first came, the situation was horrible. He said it would take 2-3 years to get it back up, but been more than that. I don't think a team like Lazio from a city like Rome deserves to be lower than a lot of these small teams. Because, not everybody could have a huge team, but then if you're going to say certain things and promise certain things, act a certain way and represent a team from a city like Rome, there's some things that you just have to do. I don't know. I think he needs to step it up a bit.
It's like he's talking out of two sides of his mouth all the time. He tries to remain positive when Rossi's on borrowed time. You brought out that interesting point of Rossi. I have to agree with you. Obviously, he probably doesn't ask for a lot. He's a president's kind of coach.
For sure.
If you're going to come out and criticize the club, like I liked what he said, and it made a lot of sense. First of all, it was too late now.
Too late, for sure.
Now, on top of that, you're bringing the club's relations to the media. When last year there's the press silence, we want to keep everything inside the club, everything within. We don't want to let out.
Well, according to him, he still wants that to happen, and he got upset with a couple of players that said a few things recently that he wished that weren't mentioned or hadn't been talked about. So he says that he still wants sort of, not silence, but just for him to talk. But, I accept that if then when you open your mouth, you say intelligent things and then you bring them forward and you do what you say. But I think this guy likes to talk. Not necessarily likes to talk, but I don't know, like a small thing. Like even just the fact that he likes to speak in Latin. You know what I mean? Like he just likes listening to himself sound important, I think. He's more like one of those guys,
That's a good segue into what you were saying, how Lotito wants to be the only one to talk. Now after this outburst, more negative behavior starts trickling down, which is what I was worried about from this outburst that he said. Players threatening to leave the club, from Kribari to Carizzo to the constant pressures by agents trying to re-sign Zarate and Panda.
Yeah.
And this whole media silence that he wanted to uphold, I think it's all for naught now because players get that little bit of freedom and they want to say what's really going on, and I think the worst has occurred here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And exactly, like for example, the signings of certain players, why haven't those happened yet? You keep saying, I keep reading, we'll sign Zarate, we'll sign Pandav's renewal, and these players are not going anywhere. And okay, how come there isn't an agreement being made? Like, what is the problem? Any other team would love to have players like that on their team. We have them. We're not rushing to put their signature on a contract. Like, why?
That's ridiculous.
You know what I mean? It's because he is trying to get away with certain things, and he doesn't want to spend a certain amount of money. I don't know. Just if you can't do it, don't do it, and keep saying that you will. And if you do want to do it, give a signal to people and sign them.
The penny pinching for me can only go so far.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, the worst has occurred with what I foresee is happening, as we're relying on the Coppa Italia again as our ticket to Europe, and we all know how that ended up last year. Any extra comments on that?
The next four games will be very important. Apparently, might even decide what's going to happen with Rossi. We have Siena, the Derby, Genoa, and then we have Juventus and Coppa Italia. So it's going to be a tough 3 weeks, because I think it's all happening in the next 3 weeks. 4 difficult games, which will tell a lot. We'll see what happens. Unfortunately, these situations come at this time when now you have to make a decision, and there's 4 really tough games, and it puts everybody under pressure. I don't know. It's a bad time right now, and it's a bad time to make these difficult decisions. But something needs to happen for sure. It should have happened earlier. I still believe that there might be a problem with maybe the players and Rossi, or definitely there is wrong communication between the club and the players within the locker room, within the club itself. So I think that might be a problem. Because players, if they start feeling that they're neglected, they're not treated with respect, and they're not given the right amount of importance, feel disrespected, and especially if they have other clubs offering them all kinds of money, big contracts and big salaries. Yes, I love this team. Yes, I love this city, but what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like, I can't be mad at Pandev or anybody else if they can't find an agreement with Lotito, and Lotito keeps being a tight ass, and there's another team offering them, huge amounts of money. How can you blame them for going? You know what I mean?
It's impossible not to foresee that happening, especially if this keeps up. Emanuele, I look forward to seeing that if the president's statements hold any water, and maybe surprise win is on the cards against a team like Siena that only plays their best soccer at home, of course. And where are we traveling to? Siena this weekend.
Sure. For sure.
Grazie mille once again, Emanuele. Thanks for giving your input. I always enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Once again, this is the North Curve. We look forward to hearing your comments at dimascio@live.ca or via the Facebook group under the group section entitled The North Curve.